Thanks, Mr. Moses, Manuel Moses,
Yes.
CEO of ATIDI. Thanks for answering to our questions on Vox Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Our first question will be, what is ATIDI? What is it all about?
So ATIDI is a multilateral insurance company that was formed in 2001 by the African governments. At the time, those ones that were in COMESA region, to address the issue of why investments are not happening. Governments at that time realized that they had done quite a lot in improving the business environment, in improving the regulations, and yet investors were still not coming. And they wanted to answer that question to find out what could be the missing piece. So a study was conducted at that time, and it was discovered that this study was done by the World Bank, and the recommendations came that you need a political risk insurer to assure investors that yes, the policies that you have put in place as governments are good, they are very attractive for investors, but investors still have a question in their mind as to will you actually keep those policies for the length of the investment. If you look at how investors look at an investment, is that they are investing for the long term, sometimes 20, 25 years, and investors are concerned about the fact that things can change. And there was a need to create an insurer that can stand in the gap between investors and governments. So with that study, under COMESA, then COMESA realized that actually this is a need for Africa. So COMESA quickly then passed it on to the African Union, and we became an African Union initiative to say Africa needs a political risk insurer that can actually give investors insurance for against the risks of actions or inactions by governments. This is not a new idea. Actually, an institution like us also exists in all other regions. If you go to Latin America, there will be an equivalent of our institution. If you go to the United States, the US EXIM. If you go to India, the India EXIM, China, SURE, etc., etc. So there was nothing in Africa that actually fills that gap. So that's who we are. That's how we were created, to give political risk insurance for investors on behalf of governments.
Then what does ATIDI then precisely does? What explains the presence of ATIDI at this intra-African trade fair?
So, naturally, the intra-African trade fair is an interesting partner for us because what you see is that the trade that is happening between Africa and the rest of the world is higher. I think the numbers show probably in the 40% or so, but the trade within Africa itself is very low. And the same kind of concerns or risks that investors face is that when they are trying to trade amongst themselves, you might not know, your buyer of your goods who is in a faraway country. Africa is big, as you know. Let's say you are in Douala and you are selling your goods to a buyer in Egypt. You are concerned that your buyer might not pay you after you've delivered your goods. Again, we provide insurance against that, so that you can go ahead and export your goods. If there's a non-payment, we can compensate you. So naturally, we found ourselves, being a natural partner for intra-African trade. And this is why we are here to actually tell investors, tell traders that actually there's this solution also if you are concerned about non-payment of your buyers, especially within the African continent itself. So that's why we're here.
How has the collaboration with the AFCFTA been since then?
Naturally, it's a very, very natural partnership because, as you can see here, the AFCFTA provides the funding to these traders or investors, and investors are looking for protection for payment so that they can pay the bank. So we find ourselves complementing what the AFCFTA does because they are providing the liquidity and we are providing the protection against non-payment so that the loans can be repaid. And the partnership has been great. We have been working with them across the continent.
And according to you, what is actually the role, the importance of insurance? And I think you said ATIDI gives out insurances. What according to you is really the role and the importance of insurances in the implementation or the leverage of the AFCFTA?
So clearly, like I just said, is that insurance is a very important factor of giving comfort to traders or investors. If you don't have that assurance, you can say it's collateral that you need, that you are certain that you get back your money, the bank may not give you the funding. So the bank will be comfortable to know that, yes, you are exporting to your customers, and should things go wrong, you have another alternative source of revenue. So the bank will then be able to provide you the financing that you need. So we believe that risk management insists that you should get some other sources of revenue, not just the goods that you sold, but somebody else can stand on your behalf. So naturally, you can say what happened during the pandemic. Everyone became aware of risk. Yeah, things went wrong, and companies that had sold their goods to their customers could not be repaid. And we responded by actually paying out those customers, and they still managed to survive because they had taken insurance. Just like in your own personal life, you need to take insurance for your life, for an accident. The same thing happens to businesses. So that's the role we are playing.
Thanks for answering our questions, Mr. Manuel Moses.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.